So welcome on today's webinar. My name is Jiří Valek. I'm VP of Product Management at Newired. And today I want to speak about two main things. The first one is I want to present what we have just launched in the new release 22.1. And then I also want to give you the outlook about what's coming in the next release 22.2 in June. It's a roundtable webinar, so we appreciate questions to be asked anytime, and I'll be answering them throughout the call. After each feature that I present, I'll have a look on the questions and I'll make sure that I answer them. So 22.1, those who are often with us on these what's new and noteworthy webinars, they already know that we structure our releases into quarterly schedule. So we have one major release every year. The next major release would be Newired 23 to be launched January 2023. And of course, we have a roadmap. We have our plan, what we want to deliver in the Newired 23, but we follow the agile process. So if the feature is fully developed, fully tested, and it is ready to be launched, we don't wait for the next major release, but we launch it immediately in the regular service release. So the 22.1 is the first, let's say, step towards our milestone 23. And there are a couple of main achievements that I want to share with you. For the first part, I don't use slides because I want just to remind everyone that we have our blog channel where we announce the new features, the new announcements, etc. So I will just use today the blog to keep you guided through the first part of the webinar today. So the first topic is the single sign-on. Many of our enterprise customers have been asking for the integration with the single sign-on services. And the main purpose of the single sign-on is less the ability to log in just once, but more from the enterprise perspective to maintain users in a single enterprise directory or user directory. So you have just one password that follows the organization policies. Things like the password needs to be reset every 2 months, the strength of the password, how long is it, what characters it must include, but also the single user activation, deactivation procedures are the common reasons why the single sign-on is requested by the enterprise clients. How does the single sign-on integrates with Newired? I have here the Newired portal. The Newired portal, as you know, usually requires you to log in into the system. This is the same for the Newired editor. So traditionally, when you open the Newired portal or you open the Newired editor, you need to log in to the system. We enable now the direct integration with your single sign-on providers, with your corporate IT user management systems. What it means is that I can at Newired, we are using Google as a let's say main platform, so I can actually log in via Google. So you see, I log in here as Jiří Valek at newired.com, and authentication is successful, and I'll automatically redirected to the Newired portal. The same happens for the Newired editor. The only difference is that you know that for the Newired editor, I can enter the username and password directly in the editor. If the single sign-on is being set up for the Newired editor, you are redirected to the browser. That's the place where you authenticate yourself against Active Directory, Okta, Google, whatever. Of course, if you are already logged in, you just tell the system that you accept that the Newired will take your identity. So that's the single sign-on. Once again, the main value is the centralized user management system. Same password for the content authors at Newired, and also to access your email at Outlook, whatever services are you using. It's a roundtable webinar. I told you that I would like to actually process your questions directly. So it's the first moment when I open the Q&A panel, and I will check whether there are any questions. And there is one. What SSO platforms do you support? Our single sign-on services are based on the so-called OAuth 2 protocol. Actually, if we search our support center, we see here is a single sign-on article that actually explains how to set up the single sign-on services. And you will probably hear that what are the typical platforms we support, like Google, Active Directory Federation Services, Azure Active Directory. But what I know is actually we support any OAuth 2 compliant single sign-on provider. So if you have your own corporate provider, let us know via support, and we will help you to configure it. Is single sign-on supported also for hosted setups? So Newired can be deployed both on your premises, on your servers, or we can host it for you. The great thing about the single sign-on protocols, the OAuth 2 protocol, is that it is designed to integrate the corporate on-premise user management with the cloud services as well. So yes, we do support single sign-on capabilities also for our hosted customers, same for the on-premise customers. Can you integrate single sign-on on user level? I'm not sure I understand that, but basically what we do today is that we are integrating the single sign-on capabilities for the Newired content editors, content authors. So anyone who is working with the Newired portal or with the Newired editor, because that's the moment when you actually log in to the Newired. If you are speaking about the end users, so the people that are actually using the actual guidance, we don't require people to be logged into Newired. They are usually logged into the target management system. If you're saying whether we can integrate the user identity, for example, for the surveys or feedback with the single sign-on provider also for your end users, I think this was always possible via API. So if this is the source of your question, please let us know, and we'll show you how to integrate the user identity on your target application level with the Newired system. Let me see. Any other questions? Where is the questions panel? If you will later recognize that there is something that that came to your mind, so please, you can ask the question anytime. Next, very user-focused feature is about enforcement of the step transitions. This is really something that I would recommend to, instead of describing verbally, that I show you what actually is it about. So let me run here the CRM overview journey, which this is the product tour, and it actually explains what are the different components on the screen. But we don't want to use the spotlight because we actually want you to also see what is what is on the background of this web page. So we are in our CRM system. We have here our call out, and what we have heard in the past from the end users, or especially from the content authors, that even though we are very explicit, so we are asking user to click here on the next button, the people try to click somewhere else. And if they click somewhere else, they are navigated to the place they are not supposed to go, and the journey may fail. So you see here that if I don't click on the next button, the system actually enforce me to follow the journey. So with the next release, we have enabled you to actually control for the specific product tour journeys that the users really have to click on the next button. And I think this is really very important from the end user perspective. A great feature that makes your journeys more robust. I'll check the questions. How do I set up this feature? So I probably misleaded you by saying that this is really specific to a particular journey. You can set up the enforcement directly in the editor. So if I go and I show you this specific journey, we see that when I open the step editor, there is a special new setting. Anytime you select the next transition as a as a transition, you see here is the force click on the next button, and this enforcement ensures that the users actually has to click on a specific transition. Is the enforce next mandatory? As I have just explained, no, it is not mandatory, because there are cases when such enforcement will not be, let's say, what you expect as a content author. There is a great example, I think, here in the how to create an account overview. So when I go through how to create an account, what we'll see here, it is telling me now fill out the underlying form. Once you are done, click next. If you would set up here the enforce next transition, I would not be able to fill in the form. So the enforcement is optional, and it's controlled here directly in the Newired editor. So when you install the new version, the system will continue work as before, because by default this is being unchecked. So you need to enable it for your existing journeys manually for each step where you want the user to really be forced to click the next button. Let me check more questions. There are no other questions. So let me follow to Playbooks. The Playbooks is a new feature that we have just launched in January this year. The Playbooks are a great way how to structure all the journeys you may have into folders, playlists, however you want to call it. We call it a playbook. And what we have added to the playbooks in the last quarter are some of the features that were requested by you once you actually start using this new capability. So let me go to our demo server, and maybe let me go to the incognito mode. So this is the same CRM server with the same digital adoption platform Newired with the content. And you see that now when we present the playbooks, we can actually see where, or the users, that a user can see where is he or she with the specific playbooks. So in this case, for example, it's visible that I'm in the 33% throughout my playbook. Why? Because there are two more that I haven't executed yet. So when we quickly execute through this journey, through this product tour, and journey. Now, if you actually launch it, so if you launch this, you see we are in the 67%, and the CRM overview is actually checked. So we give user a clear indication where they are with the progress, what is completed, what is not completed, etc. This is let's say a small but heavily requested feature that we have been asked for over the last couple of months. There are some other improvements related to playbooks. The second important feature is about being able to export to Microsoft Word. You know that we have enabled you to export the content into Microsoft Word format. Why is this important? This is important because this file can be later used as an input for your testers, so they can test the journeys on all the browsers in all the environments according to the export document, or it can be electronically signed, etc. So when I now export the document, in the previous version, we were not including the playbooks in this exported version. Now, actually, what we do in this document, we actually see, we scroll to the top. Here we see there is a chapter called Playbooks, and we include in the exported document what are all the playbooks, what is the content, and of course it can be also used just as a reference, so you can easily scroll to a particular journey, etc. This is really important, just to let your reviewers, testers, whoever know how the content is structured. And honestly, also when you have hundreds of journeys, as some of our clients they have, I mean, this really also helps to structure it also for the testers so they can go through it one by one. Last but not least, we also made playbooks the first-class citizens. This is something that I'm personally very happy about, because I believe that the playbooks really brings a lot of the value to our customers. So here in the UI, we can now see that we have the playbooks as a main tab in the editor. So it's no longer hidden under the menu. It's really the main asset exposed in the user interface. I can edit it directly from this place. I can add a new playbook. So the playbooks truly become the first-class citizens from the Newired editor perspective. Let me go and check what are the questions. Where is the progress stored? The progress is stored on the client. We don't store let's see, the personal data on the server, especially not in the current moment. We are thinking about that for the future as an optional feature. Today, the playbooks, same as, for example, the information whether you have executed the journey, if you have the autoplay feature enabled, so you want to start journey automatically, you know that you can configure whether it plays just once or twice or forever. So the information about what has been completed is being stored on the client in a special so-called user storage. It's not cookie, it's a very secure storage on the client side. What if the journey is changed? I guess the question is about what if the journey is modified? Is it still tracked as completed? And the answer is yes. We identify the journey by a specific ID. Of course, you can duplicate the journey and call it the same and disable the previous one. So if the transition, or if your application changes so much that you require user to be retrained, you should really actually set up a duplicated journey rather than modify the existing one. This is the best practice. Are playbooks translated? This is not a new feature in 22.1 release, but yes, the journeys can be, or not the journeys, the playbooks can be translated into different languages. We don't have it here on our demo data. I'll ask my colleagues to actually set up also the playbooks in a different languages. But yes, the playbooks can be translated, and actually from the translation point of view, we just let you to translate the title of the playbook, but this was already possible with the previous version of our software. The questions? There are no more questions, so let me proceed. So there are many other notable improvements and fixes. We improve, or we listen to the issues you have encountered. Not each and every issue is really a kind of a bug, but it's more like a missing configuration option or something really complex at your application that requires an adjustment in our application. So you can see that the list is pretty extensive, but for the rest of the webinar today, I don't want really to speak about each and every small fix, but I would rather want to speak about the future, about what's coming in the next quarter, or actually, yeah, the Q2 starts tomorrow. So I'll speak about Newired 22.2. So the Newired 22.2 is supposed to be launched during June 2022. It's a second edition or second step towards the next major release, Newired 23. And there are a couple of important capabilities that we want to highlight even today. Especially if you are really interested in them, let us know. We can share with you the pre-release version. You'll be more than open to actually discuss how the features are going to be implemented, so we can also learn from you what you expect, and we can validate that our designs are actually matching your expectations. So we want really our customers to play a very active role in also our product design phase. So what do we want to, or what are we working on just now to be released in the next version? Been listening to some of the stories from our users and being guided through the journey, and for some reason the journey stops. Here the case might be that I did something wrong and the journey was not able to continue. So what should I do if the journey stops? Okay, I did something wrong. How can I continue? Because you know that when you restart the journey, it usually starts from beginning. There is a possibility to implement the step actions that, based on the actual URL, you will be navigated to a specific page or step, but this is quite complex. There is also another use case that some of our customers are saying, yeah, the journeys are more to newbies, the advanced users, they don't need guidance anymore. And to some extent, I must disagree, because I've been using the corporate enterprise software for last 20 years, and I know that there is always a use case that I simply forget how to follow. Okay, and I may realize that I don't know how to proceed in the middle. Okay, so here is another journey. I remember a few steps, so I don't need the journey in the first, let's see, for the first steps. But after I get into the process, I may need to be guided in a few key steps, as they are quite complex. So the scenario is that I believe that I know what I'm supposed to do, but in the middle of the procedure, I find out that that I simply forgot. And what we believe is the right option, or quick and easy way how to guide those more advanced users, is to expose our slideshow feature directly also during, let's say, the execution, or for the end users. So what am I saying? So we have our overlay. So we have our Newired system running, okay? And you know that here I can follow the guides, follow the patterns. But if you imagine here, I remember that I need to click here and I need to click here on the create account, and I also already start filling it. And now I need a guidance. If I would trigger the help, it tells me that I will lose my data because this form is being partially pre-filled. And this would be ugly, of course. So what we are thinking about and what we are releasing in the next version is that we have this great capability in our editor, which is called slideshow. So what a slideshow is capable of, it can give me actual mm, quick view into what are the next steps. So if I just want to quickly check what are the steps in my journey, I can just check these couple of screenshots. So what we plan for the next version of our software is to integrate this slideshow not only for the editors, but actually to provide the same slideshow also for the end user. So if I don't want really to be guided step by step, and I just really want to check the 2-3 steps in my journey with 50 different steps, I can launch the slideshow and I can quickly go in a 5 seconds throughout the journey and remember what am I supposed to do. Of course, we also remember that there might be some additional logic. So there can be conditional steps. So we also provide notes capabilities to describe a couple of additional hints for users that will be guided through the slideshow and not by the automated journey. So the slideshow becomes a quick overview of the journey directly in the application. It can be also used anytime I'm in the middle of the process and I just want to remember what should be the couple of the next steps that are on the, let's say, in my context. Related to it is the famous problem with journey has stopped notification. So anytime the journey stops in the editor user is being informed about the fact that the journey cannot continue. But the end user perspective or the end user is not notified about the fact that the journey has stopped or cannot continue anymore. So we want to actually change this behavior. We don't call it an error. It's not an error dialog or a warning dialog. We just want to have a non-intrusive notification that the journey can continue for whatever reason. Maybe the user decided to navigate somewhere else, perform some additional step. But especially what is also nice here is that I can resume the journey in the slideshow. So if I know that I navigated somewhere else, but I still want to remember what were the next step in my journey, I can resume the journey from the, let's see, and open the slideshow that we have just seen in the previous step. Another point that we have on the roadmap is the collapsible progress bar. It's a very important improvement because we need to ensure that Newired is 100% flexible to fit any application and provide options to blend with the target application. And what we call the progress bar, you know that when you launch the journey, the on the bottom of your screen, the panel shows up and it gives you the information about where are you in the current journey. And sometimes we admit that there can be an important information hidden behind the progress bar. We are capable of implementing the collapsible progress bar via custom theme, but we have realized that there are so many customers that are actually using these custom themes that this feature deserves an own setting in our application. So it will be easy to actually enable the progress bar with a few clicks in the site settings dialog. So you know that our mission, the Newired mission, is to close the gap between technology and software, and technology and user. And I mean, there are some users that really may struggle with the applications even more because they may have some physical disabilities. they may struggle with actually seeing the mouse pointer on the screen. And we really have customers who invest their time to not be blind and support all the let's see, the users that require some additional assistance, especially, for example, that need to use the software mainly via keyboard navigation. This is important set of requirements coming from the so-called web accessibility standards. And we believe that the digital adoption platforms should align with these standards. So we are committing to actually invest into making the digital adoption platform aligned with the web accessibility standards, which is tough because the digital adoption platform, as you mostly see on the market today, are very visual. Are, let's say, it's a layer on top of your application. But there are options. So we are starting with enabling the keyboard navigation. So all the components that are provided by Newired, so all the callouts, dialogues, progress bars, close buttons will be accessible via keyboard navigation starting the next version of Newired. I think this is really a great commitment on our roadmap, and I'm proud that we have this on our roadmap, and we want to make the Newired platform 100% web accessible. And back button. Back button is something that is optional on the roadmap. We are not 100% sure we will be able to deliver it in June. It's not something that we can ensure for every single call out. So what it means is that many of you are asking, if there is a next button, can we have a back button there? And what we are saying is that, yeah, it's really complex because, for example, when you hit save or when you hit purchase button, you cannot go back to the previous step. This is simply not possible because the action has been already triggered. But we know there are places where when this doesn't apply. So there are, let's say, journeys like a product tour where you explain different things on the screen, where the back button will just work nicely. So similar to this enforcement of the next button, we want to introduce the optional back button in case you know that the users would be able to go back. So it's not a case when when the previous step is already launched and you cannot go to it. It's really the case when you know that the previous step can be actually executed, then you can enable the back functionality for your journey steps. Last but not least, we also see how you expand your Newired usage to other apps, not just to the apps that we all know, like Salesforce, Workday, Polarion, or Teamcenter, or any of the well-known software applications, but you have tons of internally developed apps, small apps that are provided by the independent software vendors. And many of them, as we are sharing with you, requires the so-called application profiling. So requires Newired to be configured for a specific applications. And what we have learned is that we have a great configurability option. So we have a lot of configuration options, but we want to go one step further for really tough and unique applications. We will also provide customizability in terms that we will be able to adjust the algorithms, for example, that locates the element on the screen and will ensure even greater robustness. So if you have an application that you have been testing with Newired in the past, but it was not fully supported, let us know, and we can actually schedule a call with our IT personnel, and you can actually be the first to use the customizability of our system as well. So this is what we have planned for the next version. So just to wrap up today's webinar, in the first part, I've been speaking about 22.1 release that have been scheduled a couple of weeks ago. Everything is documented here on our blog. So if I go to newired.com and I go to the blog website, you can find the article that specifies all the new capabilities as I've presented today. You can download the latest 22.1 version if you have the on-premise setup. If you are on the hosted environment, very likely your version has been already updated to 22.1, so you can use all the new capabilities, the single sign-on, the enforced step transitions, the playbooks, etc. Today with your environment. And then in the second part of my presentation today, I spoke about the outlook for the future for 22.2. Main additions, just really as a recap: slideshow for end users, ability to resume the journey with the slideshow, and then we listen to your needs with the back button enablement, and also the main achievement with the keyboard navigation capabilities. So that's what we have planned for today. I've been not letting you to ask the questions for the roadmap, because usually you ask more questions about the existing features. But if you have any question for the roadmap, I'm open to answer it. Let me check. Well, the next button will be enabled only for the next transitions. I don't think that the question of enablement of the back button is depending whether the transition is a next transition or other transition. I can imagine that the back button will be enabled also for other type of transitions, because it is mostly related to the previous step, not that much with the current step. So no, this will be actually connected also with other transitions as well. See. There are no more questions, so thank you for asking so many questions, especially during the first part of the webinar when I spoke about 22.1 version. If you find out tomorrow there was something that you forgot to ask, please let us know, or let the support know at support@newired.com. Or if you really struggle with setup of single sign-on, please let us know. We are open to help anytime. Thank you for your time today, and we will hopefully connect again with the next version of Newired at June this year. Thank you.